I'm 81 years old. I retired 2 years ago, and there's something I didn't expect to feel this strongly once the working days stopped. I thought I would feel relief. Instead, what I feel most days is regret, sitting quietly beside me like it's always been there, just waiting for me to slow down enough to notice it. I don't say this to sound dramatic. I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm saying it because time has a way of removing distractions, and when it does, the truth gets louder. These days, my mornings are slow. I wake up without an alarm. That used to sound like freedom. Now it mostly feels like emptiness. The house is quiet in a way it never was when I was younger. Not peaceful, just quiet. I make my coffee, sit at the table, and look out the same window I've looked out of for years. The view hasn't changed. I have. When you're younger, you think reflection is something you'll do later. You think understanding comes at the end, neatly packaged. What no one tells you is that understanding often arrives after usefulness leaves. I spent most of my life being busy. That sounds respectable. It sounded respectable to everyone around me, too. I worked hard. I showed up. I paid bills. I kept moving. At the time, none of it felt like a mistake. In my 20s, I was just starting out. I didn't have much, but I had energy. I took the jobs that were available, not the ones I dreamed about. I told myself that was maturity. I worked long hours because that's what people did. I remember coming home tired, eating whatever was easy, and telling myself I'd catch up on life later. Later always felt close enough to touch. In my 30s, responsibility arrived in full. Work became heavier. Expectations grew. I was needed. That felt good. Being needed gives you a sense of purpose, even when it quietly takes something from you in return. I miss dinner sometimes, miss conversations, miss moments that didn't seem important on their own. I told myself I was doing the right thing. I told myself that providing was love. I didn't think I was choosing work over people. I thought I was choosing stability over chaos. In my 40s, routines hardened. Life became predictable. I knew which days were stressful and which ones weren't. I knew which conversations I could postpone. I knew how to apologize quickly when I disappointed someone, and I learned how to accept apologies from myself even faster. There were invitations I declined because I was tired, calls I meant to return, visits I postponed. None of those choices felt permanent. They felt temporary, harmless. That's the part that stays with me now. The regret didn't come from one big mistake. It came from 1,000 small delays. I remember thinking, I'll do that when things slow down. I remember believing things would slow down on their own. They didn't. Years passed without any announcement. Birthdays blurred together. Faces aged gradually enough that I didn't notice until photos started surprising me. I thought I was present because I was physically there. I didn't realize how often my mind was somewhere else, already preparing for the next obligation. By the time I reached my 50s, I was tired in a different way. Not just physically. Tired of maintaining the version of myself everyone expected, I started talking about retirement even though it was still far off. I treated it like a finish line, like something that would fix everything. I told myself, when I retire, I'll finally have time. That sentence is my biggest regret, not because retirement is bad, it's not, but because I placed too much faith in a future version of myself that never actually arrived. I assumed I'd have the same people, the same health, the same opportunities, just with more free hours. Life doesn't work like that. The slow cost of my choices didn't show up all at once. It showed up in small absences. People stopped calling as often. Conversations became shorter. Familiar voices grew distant, not out of anger, but out of adjustment. People adapt to your absence without telling you. I didn't notice when certain doors quietly closed. I only noticed years later when I tried to open them again. The turning point wasn't dramatic. It rarely is. It was a phone call I didn't expect, telling me someone I had known most of my life was gone. Someone I had meant to visit, someone I assumed would still be there when I had more time. There was no argument, no unresolved fight, just absence, permanent and unchangeable. Standing there afterward, I realized something I hadn't let myself understand before. Time doesn't wait for readiness. It moves whether you're paying attention or not. By the time I retired, the world I had been working so hard for was smaller. Some people were gone. Some relationships had thinned beyond repair. Energy I assumed I'd have was already fading. Health issues I brushed off became daily considerations. I had time, yes, but time without the same access, the same strength, the same company. That's the part no one likes to say out loud. There are things now that simply can't be fixed. Conversations that will never happen. Apologies that can't be delivered. Moments that can't be recreated, no matter how much time I sit with the memory of them. I can't go back and be more present. I can't return calls that are decades old. I can't explain myself to people who no longer exist in this world. That knowledge sits heavy. It doesn't crush me every day, but it's always there. A quiet weight. If you're listening to this and you're younger, I'm not telling you to quit your job or abandon responsibility. I'm not saying productivity is evil. I'm saying I wish I had understood that presence is not something you schedule later. I wish I had known that someday is not a promise, it's an assumption. I wish I had realized that people don't wait forever, even if they love you. They move forward, they build lives that don't include you in the same way. Not because they're cruel, but because life keeps going. I thought success would feel fuller than this. I thought being responsible would protect me from regret. It didn't. It just delayed it. Now, my days are quieter. I take walks. I sit longer with my thoughts than I ever did before. Some days I feel grateful. I've had a long life. I've seen things change. I've loved and been loved, even if imperfectly. Other days, the silence is loud. I don't know how much time I have left. None of us do. But I know it's less than what I've already spent. That changes how truth feels. It sharpens it. If this meant something to you, if it stirs something uncomfortable or familiar, sit with that feeling. You don't need to act on it immediately. Just don't ignore it the way I did. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not bitter. I've accepted that some lessons only arrive when they're no longer useful. That's part of being human. This is me at 81 telling you the truth I wish I'd heard earlier. Not to warn you, just to leave something honest behind. When my time is up, this is what I want remembered. Not what I achieved, but what I finally understood.